Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and I just wanted to make a short little video about Monk. I've been playing the job a lot more recently since I haven't been hardcore raiding anymore, even went so far as to get my item level 240 animal weapon on this. So I wanted to do a quick video. A lot of people come by the stream, ask a few questions, and I want to answer them in this video. First and foremost, I don't really consider myself having a main. To me, a main is the job you go to raid with, and since I haven't been raiding recently, I just play whatever the heck I want. I've been playing Warrior, Astro, Ninja, Monk, whatever I really feel like, but Monk has always been a job that I've always kind of been drawn to. So, with that out of the way, I want to share with you guys the opener that I've been using on Monk. This is not a full guide on the job, but if there is some demand for that, I will work on that. It's going to take quite a bit of work because there's a lot of resources I have to consider when it comes to a Monk guide. So there's two types of openers that people tend to ask about. Of course, there's the average opener with perfect balance and the opener without perfect balance. The opener with perfect balance, easy to explain. The opener without perfect balance comes to a lot of situational things. There's usually just a few rules that you'll want to apply to your average rotation, and when you open without perfect balance, it's just a matter of applying those rules as soon as possible. So first, let's jump right into that opener with perfect balance. This is kind of the opener you're expected to do on any major boss fights, whether they be Trials or Alexander or whatever it is. This is what you're usually going to want to do. You're going to want to start with 5 stacks of your chakra. This is just normal stuff you should be doing anyway as a monk. Fist of Fire, make sure you turn that on, and then you always want to start a fight with yourself change formed into Coral Stance. You always want to start by generating a stack of Greased Lightning. Now that you've managed to do that, let's talk about the opener itself. So you're always going to want to open with Demolish and get that dot ticking while you generate the remaining Greased Lightning stacks that you have. You can choose to open with a Shoulder Tackle before that, but I use Shoulder Tackle later in my rotation to get a little bit more damage out of the potency with all the buffs and whatnot. So if you can just run up alongside the tank and then just perform Demolish as your very first ability, that leaves it open to do a little bit more damage later on. After that, you're going to want a perfect balance and move to the flank for your next 5 global cooldowns. You're going to want to Snap Punch, Blood for Blood, Snap Punch, Internal Release, Dragon Kick, Pot of Strength, whichever one you can afford, if any, Twin Snakes, Elixir Field, Snap Punch, Howling Fist, Touch of Death, Steel Peak, Boot Shine, Shoulder Tackle, that's where I use it, True Strike, Forbidden Chakra, Demolish. Let's see it done real quick right here. So I do get a lot of questions about this opener whenever I do it on my live stream, so let's cover some of the ones that I'm used to. First of all, you don't need Pots of Strength on everything, especially if you're someone who mostly just does dungeons and trial roulettes and things like that. That's something that you'll definitely want for serious raid progression or whenever you're progressing on a brand new primal, assuming it's with a group that you trust won't just wipe on the first phase. Sorry, Party Finder. That being said, if you can afford them, they're great to have. X potions, Draconian potions, max potions, whatever your budget can afford. If you can't afford a pot, one thing you can do is delay Blood for Blood and Internal Release, 1 global cooldown each. So you can do Blood for Blood after the second Snap Punch and Internal Release in place of where you would have used your Pot of Strength. The second very big question that I get regarding this opener is how late Forbidden Chakra is used in it. Now, a lot of people go, well, Forbidden Chakra is clearly your strongest off global cooldown skill. Why do you wait so long to use it? Now, most off global cooldown skills will recharge manually. They have a cooldown, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever. That applies to Elixir Field, Howling Fist, Steel Peak, and Shoulder Tackle. Forbidden Chakra, on the other hand, while it does have sort of a cooldown, you can only use it whenever you have 5 stacks of your chakra. So if you can't generate the 5 stacks, the recharge on it is not actually coming up any quicker. There's very few fights where you're going to use Forbidden Chakra in your opener, and within the next 30 seconds or so, use it again and get 5 stacks again. So for that reason, we push Forbidden Chakra all the way to the end so that the abilities that have a cooldown that is going to tick down automatically can be used first in the order of highest potency to lowest potency. Another question I get very often is regarding the use of Fracture. Now, I don't consider Fracture an opener skill. You're definitely not going to want to use it in any of the off global cooldowns, or I'm sorry, any of the global cooldowns that I just named. Fracture pretty much has 1 or 2 uses as a monk, and even those are somewhat debatable. A lot of monks prefer to use Fracture fairly consistently. Some don't want to use it at all. I'm kind of on the border. I recognize where it's useful. Fracture is pretty much only used whenever you do not reapply Touch of Death between demolishes. The reason for that is just because if you do apply both a Touch of Death and a Fracture between demolishes, odds are you're going to maybe lose a second or two of Dragon Kick or a second or two of Twin Snakes, maybe even a second or two of Demolish, and you want to make sure that those abilities have a 100% uptime. So one really good time to use it, and probably the only time you'll see me use it across an entire fight, if at all, is right after the Perfect Balance opener. I'll do Dragon Kick into Twin Snakes, and then before doing a Snap Punch, that's where I'll throw my Fracture, and that lets me know I just got Dragon Kick and Twin Snakes up again. They have plenty of time. I don't have a Touch of Death to do because I did my Touch of Death just maybe 3 or 4 GCDs ago, or however many GCDs ago. And it just pans out that way much better. I eventually get to the point where Demolish is just under 3 seconds. I reapply that, and then Touch of Death is immediately after. So Fracture also, you can use it whenever you're running away from a boss. Like if you need to be out of range of a boss for like over 5 seconds, you'll want to usually make sure you have all 3 of your all 2 of your dots ticking, and then Fracture if you have it as a cross-class skill. Again, not super important. Some people prefer to just lead off of another skill, one that is actually built into the monk. That way you can go right back into it, or you only have to change forms 1 fewer time. So there's some very particular situations. Regardless, if you are using it, stop using it when you're low on TP. It sucks your TP dry if you try using it consistently, so it's a hit or miss when it comes to Fracture. So once you've done your opener, there are a few very simple rules that you want to apply to Monk. For one, the use of Dragon Kick, Twin Snakes, Demolish is very much scripted in the way that you move through your abilities and what your global cooldown usually is as a Monk. You'll use Dragon Kick every other Oppo stance, so you'll alternate between Dragon Kick and Boot Shine whenever you get to that point in your rotation. Twin Snake, same deal. You'll almost always pair it with Dragon Kick unless something goes wrong or you mess up your rotation at some point and they get separated. Demolish, on the other hand, is every 3 times that you get to Coral Stance because it has a 21-second duration. So basically you would do 2 Snap Punches, and then on the 3rd one you would switch back to Demolish. Touch of Death you pretty much just apply whenever it's about to fall off. It's not going to interrupt your combos. It's not going to delay you too much as long as you're not also using Fracture like we spoke about before. And those are really the most important rules. Making sure to use your Blood for Blood and your internal release as they become available to you. You always want to try and tie them together with Demolish and your off global cooldowns if possible. Like you always want maybe Elixir Field whenever you're using Blood for Blood, or you want to make sure that your Demolish is always getting either internal release, Blood for Blood, or both applied whenever you use it. So it takes a little bit of practice. A lot of fights tend to spread those cooldowns pretty far apart, but as you go on throughout the fight, you'll generally see a pattern, and eventually you'll figure out what off global cooldowns. Maybe if I hold this for just 3 seconds, I'll be able to get all these abilities off within Blood for Blood. It takes a little bit of analyzing, but as long as you keep those basic rules of Dragon Kick, Twin Snakes, and Demolish up, then you should move through your rotation with fairly decent DPS. Now, I want to keep this video short since I said it wouldn't be a full-blown guide, so I do have a sort of opener without Perfect Balance. To be honest, I've seen so many different openers without Perfect Balance that I can't say this is the recommended one, I can't say it's the best one, I can't say it's anything. All I can say is that it works. You pretty much apply Demolish, and then you just go through those rules that I named, you know, Dragon Kick, Twin Snake, Snap Punch, and then you start following all the rules. Make sure Dragon Kick's applied, make sure Twin Snakes is up, make sure you get your stacks of Grease Lightning, Demolish every 3rd Coral Stance, and you just follow those rules while eventually popping Blood for Blood, Internal Release. I prefer to pop Blood for Blood and Internal Release after or just before I get my 2nd stack of Grease Lightning. That's about 4 global cooldowns into your opener, and then you basically just follow through with all the same rules. Blood for Blood, Internal Release, Pot of Strength, Elixir Field, Howling Fist, Steel Peak, Shoulder Tackle, and then Forbidden Chakra right there at the end while you're at the peak of your Blood for Blood duration. Because without Perfect Balance, your global cooldown is going to be longer for many more global cooldowns than it was before. It is very important to kind of track how much time you have left on it to make sure you get all those off global cooldowns done for the during the duration of Blood for Blood. As for AoEs, I made a document that has all of these things written down. I've included a bunch of different rules about AoE rotations when you're on 2 mobs, 3 mobs, 4 mobs, or 5 mobs or above. There are a lot of different rules you can follow here, a lot of different ways to spread out your global cooldowns, a lot of ways to use Perfect Balance, a lot of ways to use your off global cooldowns. Just remember how strong your AoE is very important. Your TP sustain is very good. And on fights where you need a lot more TP sustain, it is acceptable to completely forego Forbidden Chakra in your opener and instead utilize meditation, or whatever the skill is called, to be honest. Purification, that's the one. Although most of the time you can usually ask your raid for some sort of utility, a ninja's goad, or you'll probably lose a little bit of uptime on most bosses, so that very rarely becomes a situation where you need to worry so much about your TP that you end up needing to use purification. Big AoE sections like A2 Savage are really the only places I can think of in the immediate sort of time frame of Heavensward that you would really ever consider using purification. But then again, I haven't done A8 Savage as my monk yet, so maybe it's different there. I'll let you guys know when I get to it. Anyway, hope this little bit of information on Monk wasn't too scripted, really. I just had an idea of what I wanted to talk about. Hopefully it was useful to monks out there. Like I said, if there is a demand for a full-blown guide, stat weights, more in-depth on the rotations and the skills and the rules sets that we can use, better examples on the screen, since I mostly just used examples of me doing like the Burden of the Sun dummy, or I showed a few examples of me hitting just dummies. Pretty much I just hit dummies in this entire video, so it's whatever. Let me know what you want. I'll see if I can accommodate. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for more job basic videos like this one. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.